welcome to We're Not Wizards. We are the best, but not wizards. Enjoy the show!
Episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for May. Now, if people have been on here for the first time, we give them all the airs and graces. They get nothing but kindness and kid gloves. They get ushered in on like one of those kind of carry things that people carry people on their shoulders, that kind of thing. They get treated to the best stuff in the house. It's almost like your firstborn child. That's how you treat them. You kind of worry about everything that they do. However, if they're a secondary guest, they don't get any of those airs and graces. We allow them to play with anything that they want to. If that means sharpen knives and drawers, the corners of the desks become uncovered and we let them go out and play in the garden when we know we've just put down weed killer. Some might say, we're not sure if that's a good way to go things. I mean, that might force people to flee or even to have fled. But anyway, we're not a bunch of dirty flockers. But we do know someday we're going to prepare you to meet the flockers. And there's only one person that can help us meet the flockers. And that's Mark Swanson from Odd Bird Games. There you go. There you go.
Great intro. I can't top that. Wow.
You said that last time as well. I've been off. I must admit, I've been off my intro game because normally what happens with me and Luke is, normally we're having a conversation and then we realise that actually we should be recording the show, and then we press the record button, and then we have a chat. And then we forget that we're still recording the show, and then we have to stop recording at some point. It's just the two of us just sitting about and talking nonsense and having the absolutely kind of the best kind of time. But when we spoke a little while ago, we were speaking about Fled. And since then, things have happened to Mr. Swanson from Odd Bird Games. I am looking at a man who I think it's not the term silver fox is there with a head of hair. I mean, this is coming from a spot of jealousy. This is a man who's grown his hair and it looks amazing. I'm surprised if you turned your camera to the corner of the room, there wouldn't be some kind of guitar sitting in the corner, an acoustic.
What can I tell you? I'm a Renaissance man, Richard.
It's good to have you back. How are you doing anyway? How are things with you?
Things are good. I mean, things are a little hectic right now. I'm just a day or two away from a launch. So, my mind is filled with all the things I still have to do. Like this podcast.
I know. It's like, did you ever get into a situation where you says this could have been an email? Could you not just email the questions? And what I'll do is I'll reply back to them at a time that's convenient for myself, But we do have some questions. We've got some structure. We have got some questions. We've got some structure because let's face it, I'm old, I'm forgetful. I've got your name written in kind of like big letters at the top of the screen just so I don't call you by don't start calling you Gary or something like that. Because I kind of am. I'm kind of getting to that kind of age. I can't ignore the huge blue elephant in the room, or the light baby blue elephant in the room, which was the Feudum kind of Septeminal edition that's recently it's been out for backers for a little while, and that was a beautiful kind of campaign that kind of gathered kind of everything together. And I'm assuming that people are starting. They're diving into it. They're playing it. They're getting on the table. in terms of something like Feudum, has that reignited the excitement for Feudum again for yourself, seeing people getting it back to the table and playing around with all the expansions?
To tell you the truth, I didn't realize how popular it was. I was kind of reluctant about doing some sort of relaunch, but GameFound reached out to me and said, "Hey, why don't you think about coming over to us? We can help you put this on GameFound." And so I gave it some serious thought, and I thought, well, I'm nowhere near a 10th anniversary. I'm at year 7. And I thought, well, let's see, what do they call year 7? Ooh, septennial. Ooh, that's copper. Copper is the material for the 7th anniversary. So I decided to create this clockwork behemoth in copper because it actually appears in the game on the game board. The alchemist on the game board is holding a little clockwork behemoth. Yeah. And I decided to create that as kind of the token piece of the game. And yeah, the rest is history. I relaunched it, and yeah, it kind of reignited interest in the game, and people that were always on the fence decided to jump in and get involved.
With and I don't think I asked this question last time in exactly the same way, but with the advent of a lot of duel games, and also with your man Jamie Stegmaier, who I know that you have a kind of an ongoing kind of friendship kind of going on. They seem to be releasing kind of iterations of the kind of games that they have. So the latest kind of expansion to Viticulture is Bordeaux, and it kind of makes changes to the board and turns it on its head a bit. And then you've obviously the soup du jour, which seems to be going on, is creating games into kind of duel games. With you having such a well-loved IP as Feudum, has that crossed your mind about creating something using less mechanics but within the Feudum universe, like a smaller kind of subsection game, or even like a smaller version of Feudum, to say Feudum Duel? Where you're just one kingdom against each other, as opposed to like just a 2-player version of the game. You've actually got, well, here's a specific smaller kind of cut of the game, which still is within the Feudum universe, but gives a little bit extra accessibility, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of Feudum light. So the short answer is no.
Okay. Next question.
The longer answer is lots of people have told me, hey, they love the IP, they love the theme and the story behind Feudum, and it's very deserving of a shoot-off game, so that people can continue to enjoy the IP, but the only thing that I'm really interested in doing is just creating another expansion if I were to continue in that IP. And so I actually have some tinkerings behind the scenes of an expansion that could be down the road. But no, I like to, it's more fun for a designer like me to come up with an entirely new IP than it is to keep playing in the same sandbox. It's funny because it kind of reminds me of a story about, you remember the band Huey Lewis and the News?
Oh, yeah.
So they, they were a pop band. And what people didn't know is that behind the scenes, they were actually pretty good jazz musicians. And so the band decided, we're tired of all this pop stuff. We want to really go on tour with a real jazz record. And the agent told them, that's a suicide. Don't do it. It won't be popular. You guys are crazy. They did it anyway because that was their passion. And of course, no one really has heard about this. It didn't do that well. And everyone and the agent was just saying, you should just go back to Happy to Be Stuck with You. And, I Want a New Drug and all of those poppy type tunes. And that's how I feel. I feel like Huey Lewis, I feel like people are like, hey, more Feudum, more offshoots of Feudum. Let's just stick with that IP. You're Mark Swanson, the creator of Feudum. And I'm like, no, I have these other ideas too.
Yeah.
So
you want to draw, it sounds like at some point you'll draw a line under Feudum and say, there's Feudum, it's complete. This is the version that I kind of want out there for everybody to kind of go ahead and enjoy.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Okay. There was Fled, which came out. But now, which was set around kind of like a prison, a prison based in Ireland. And then Flockers. Because if I was drawing a line from subject to subject and you said, okay, let's draw where we're going with where we're going from Feudum to Fled and then going Flockers. When I looked at Fled, I was kind of like, well, this is Mark doing kind of like not necessarily Diet Feudum, but this is a Mark who is wanting to present a game that still has semi kind of complicated mechanics, kind of things that make you think. In many ways, it's kind of like a puzzle game. And it was a different IP and it was a different direction. And if I'd said, right, what's the potential for the next game? You creating a game about seabirds is about over there.
Yeah.
There's a point right now. There's a couple of gulls in my garden because obviously irony loves anything except division. Where did the idea for Flockers kind of come from? I'm just like fascinated by this.
First of all, they're not gulls, they're geese. Okay, they look a little like gulls.
All right,
someone thought they were a stork the other day. I'm like, no, they're snow geese. Okay, but so I can actually draw a line from Feudum to Flockers, I think.
I want to see this. This is like one of these seven degrees of Kevin Bacon or something like that. So you better deliver on this, Swanson.
Yeah. So Feudum, it was really me chasing what I used to call the holy grail of games. Just kind of something big, open, an open-ended sandbox with a working economy, multiple paths to victory. It was kind of intentionally sprawling. I loved the video game Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption. I love any open world video game, and I wanted to create that for a tabletop game because I wanted players to feel like they were living inside of a system, not just solving one. And so it took years. It took over 5 years, not just designing it, but validating it through a lot of playtesting and spreadsheets and data collection. And so with Flockers, I flipped the question. Instead of asking how big can I make this thing, I was like, how much can I remove and still keep it compelling? Because that's creating a game that's elegant is hard. Like an example of everybody loves the game Love Letter, right? I mean, it's translated into a million different languages, and there's Love Letter Samurai Edition, Love Letter Batman and Robin. I have Love Letter Adventure Time. So it's a popular game, but it's only 16 cards, I think, 17 cards. And so to create something
at the maximum.
And so I started thinking, what is it about a 16 card game, a simple card game that's so elegant and replayable? And it's a completely different discipline. And, it's like, if you're an author, you're writing a short story instead of a novel, and everything has to kind of earn its place. So, yeah, I anything that didn't directly support the mechanics of the game, the timing, the formation, the momentum of a game, it had to, get cut. And that's hard and also refreshing to try to do.
That must have been refreshing for you, because I guess coming from Feudum, where you just went, right, we're going to have, we're going to have an entire market which is going to be based about kind of buying and selling stuff. And over there, let's have a way we can kind of win through invasions. And over here, let's have, for you to then cut it back and really, really tighten it. That must have been, even in your experience, and kind of an exercise in learning game design.
Yeah.
In a different direction.
Yeah. It's easier to add complexity than to refine a game. But, even though it kind of seems smaller on the surface, there's still quite a bit going on underneath in Flockers. It's just kind of hiding in plain sight, really.
The thing about the game, though, and is how it appears. Its general looks. It's kind of its appearance on the table. I'm always fascinated, and I'm always continually surprised by how board games is kind of like people go, oh well, is it art? And there's games that I look at in tabletop where I'm just like, yeah, this is art. I'm looking at Flockers, and you've got the cards which are like, the overheads of these geese as they're flying over, but then you've actually got the individual models of these geese as they're flapping their wings. So how far was that into the design journey that you said, okay, we've got the card stock here, let's do something different with the individual pieces? Or who was it, yourself that had the idea for the actual kind of the geese in the way that we were, or was that something that kind of came along later?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the origin of that. It was, I had a cocktail in my hand, and I was stirring a drink with a stir stick with a goose on top of it.
Oh, right, okay.
So it was this metal stir stick, and I was stirring my drink, and I'm like, wow, this feels kind of fancy. This feels good. And this was, about the same time that I was thinking about Flockers, which originally was not called that. Actually, it was a game about sled dogs at the beginning. Not a lot of people know that, but I was fascinated with the Iditarod, and this is a 1,000-mile race, sled dogs across the tundra in Alaska. Famous race, and I was fascinated with how the lead dog would change, and they would have to navigate terrain, and the lead dog would get tired, so a new one would come in, and I started thinking of, well, are there other species in the wild that have this, kind of rotation of the leader and have to travel long distances? And then I thought, well, gosh, geese do that. And so I started researching geese. And I'd begun the game with mechanics surrounding sled dogs. And then the more I researched it and learned about it, the more I realized, there's some controversy around that. The dogs, people believe the dogs are pushed past their limits. Other people say, no, the dogs really enjoy it. But I didn't want to go there. I love dogs. I love cats. I'm an animal lover. And so I didn't want to pursue that. So I started thinking, well, what about geese? And then I had that stir stick moment, and then I believe that that a game is more than the art. It's also the production value. Yeah. In fact, I think I think I've talked about the kind of the when a game is firing on all four cylinders, then it makes an impression. And those four cylinders are obviously mechanics, the art, the theme or the story, and then the production value. So the production value gets kind of left off a lot of times. People don't put the same level of care into it. They're satisfied with cardboard or plastic, and I'm not. There's definitely places for plastic or acrylic or resin. I definitely use those kinds of materials. But man, there's something about hand-painted metal minis with an electroplate base that's spectacular.
That's what's kind of different. I mean, when you had made the samples and you had it sitting on the table, where you're like, yeah, this is working.
Yeah.
This is kind of good. The other concern is, with any, it's really strange because when you saying, oh, I had to research kind of like how geese, the migration of them and stuff like that, and it's like, I'm not surprised you had to do that, because you do. I would imagine that the kind of the passion of the geese kind of community would not be a community that you would want to mess with, because first of all, they probably know a lot of geese, and they've probably got links to Canada geese, and as you know, Canada geese are not something to be messed with. But with anything, when you're getting into a specialist subject, it's very easy if you're like saying, well, this is how they follow this migratory pattern, this is how they do this is how they do that. And you don't want somebody coming on going, this is nonsense. They would never do this. They would never go that way.
Of course. Yeah, no, bird lovers, they're a thing. And I had to kind of become one so that I could represent it properly. Definitely. In fact, there's an expansion where a Canada goose is introduced into the mix, and it's called Unwelcome Guest. So I know all about how Canada geese are a slightly larger bird than snow geese, and they tend to stick to themselves. They don't share the flock with snow geese, although other types of geese do, like the white-fronted geese. They might actually fly alongside or even in a formation with the snow geese. It's quite fascinating.
So, in terms of the game's mechanics, how does it work? What is it? Is it card drafting? Is it how? Give us a kind of a rundown of how you actually play kind of flockers.
Yeah, it's mostly hand management, tactical hand management, and then there's some set collection. There is there's engine building. So on your turn, you basically do three things. You add a bird to your flock, and that triggers an action, and then you draw a card, and that's it. But underneath that, you have to assemble an engine, because that engine, Richard Ham of Rahdo Runs Through calls it an engine of terrain traversal. I thought that was a great way to describe it. But that engine you build on the table determines how far your flock token can move on a fly action.
Yeah. And does that then govern kind of like, are you trying to race other people to players to a destination, or are you just trying to make sure you get to the end of it?
No, you're racing. So in fact, that's one of the mechanics, the race mechanic. Board Game Geek breaks down all the mechanics, and that's one of them. So yeah, at its heart, it is a race. Every flock token begins at the square one, so to speak, and then you lay out terrain cards to create the flight path. And then when the 10th card is revealed, the first flock token that lands on or passes the 10th terrain card triggers the end of the game, and everyone else gets one final turn to try to go a little bit further. And if they tie, there are tiebreakers. The person that has the largest formation wins, and if they're still tied there, then it's the one that has the same or the largest number of a goose type in their hand, because there's snow geese, right? It's one species, but there are juveniles. There's the adult white, the adult blue, and then the juvenile white and the juvenile blue. And so those are all represented with subtle color variations in your flock, and all of that matters.
You said there's expansions, so was it the case that you kind of, when you were developing the main game, you were like, this is a little bit too big for the main game, or this is big enough in its own kind of entity that it's actually, I can carve this off and make it an expansion because it does enough differently with the mechanics.
Yeah,
that it's worthwhile having it as a separate entity.
That, for me, that is usually how it works. Usually I have all these ideas, and I have to trim, and then what I find left on the cutting room floor, I'm like, oh, that could be an expansion, right? That's what happened with Feudum for sure. But with Flockers, it was different. I was starting out thinking, how do I create a very streamlined, elegant game? And I created it, and I'm like, this works fantastic. Oh, I love it. It's so much fun. My wife loves it. My friends love it. I'm really onto something. And then after playing it, hundreds of times, I was like, I want more. How do I expand this? So it happened the reverse way. I wanted to create something, a little bit more involved. And so the white-fronted geese, the Birds of a Feather expansion, introduces a few new actions that make the game even more layered.
And those expansions are going to be part of the kind of the campaign.
Yes.
Were you wary of having kind of like when you're presenting the kind of the Game Found campaign? Were you wary of kind of like having so many expansions available in the campaign? I'll give you my reasoning. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things that does concern me about crowdfunding is that I see very little. I see quite a lot of packages where people are now able to come out going, this is $300, this is $500 in total. To get everything, it's like we need a kidney. And I see there being a kind of a raise in prices. And part of that is obviously there's an increase in costs. And part of that seems to be there's not a minimum. When you were looking at kind of like the expansions and kind of pricing that out, you obviously have to take into account kind of manufacturing costs. But do you also think about, well, if I offer too much and people who love the idea, they're going to look at this and go, that's too much money for me. I want everything, but I can't afford to sink $200 into kind of everything. Do you have to be a bit more price conscious, especially with, cost of living? We talk cost of living crisis and, everything like that. Is that something you take into consideration when you're putting together like your packages as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's all about the reward tiers. It is possible, and I've seen some campaigns just have one tier. It's like, this is the base game. Yeah. I'll make some expansions later, and here it is. It's, take it or leave it. But what I've found is that for the people that want to go all in, you want to make sure that there's something for them to go all into. A crowdfunding, there's a lot of work behind creating a crowdfund campaign, and to have to do it again a second time or a third time for future expansions can be kind of cumbersome. So if possible, it's good to offer expansions and upgrades all in the first campaign. And for those people that want to do a deep dive, they have that option. For those that just want to scratch the surface, they can certainly get just the base game and be done with it and have lots of fun as well. So it's really about providing options for people that want them. And there's no mistake that some people have FOMO and want to get it all and all in one fell swoop, and they go all in. But ultimately that's their choice. Other people have told me, instead of separating out the expansions, why not put everything in one big box? Because, hey, we have limited shelf space, and that's very true too. But then now suddenly, the price point for a single big box edition is going to be out of some people's price range. So I found it better to have kind of an introductory base game offering for 1 to 4 players, and for people that want to go further to add a 5th and 6th player expansion, or the Unwelcome Guest Canada Goose expansion, which adds a little bit more player interaction. They can do that at their discretion.
How many little Easter egg nods to Feudum is there in the scenery, in the kind of the landscape cards? Because one of the things I've noticed as the reward straight away is there's a lead balloon card that you can add to your pledge, and I'm like, I recognise that balloon. So was there tempting when you were looking at kind of like the different cards that you were laying out? Was it tempted to put in a couple of like little nods to kind of the other games that you've worked on as well? Or should people back you and then they can find out when it gets delivered that they can find the Easter eggs for themselves, basically?
Yeah, there's an airship with the balloon in Feudum, and then the balloon in Flockers is a little added bonus for the people that follow before the campaign launches. Mm-hmm. And it's I made it yellow because I was thinking of the Tour de France actually, and how the lead cyclist wears the yellow jersey, and I thought it'd be cool to have a yellow balloon that you could put up at the front just to show everyone, hey, I'm in the lead right now. So yeah, it's just a fun little thing. Was it a head nod to Feudum? Not really. It was just something that what else is up in the sky with birds, and I thought it's balloons.
Subconsciously. Potentially, maybe. With the prices being there, you obviously need to set the pledge levels for to make sure you're kind of covering kind of your manufacturing costs. With the ongoing, I guess, kind of exciting and interesting situation regarding changes in things like tariffs and transportation prices and fuel prices and things like that. Is it difficult, or do you have to put more work in to be kind of more risk averse to potential spanners in the works? Or is it a case that now you have to say, right, okay, guys, we're going to have to delay this by 2 months or 3 months to maintain its kind of like affordability?
Yeah, it's a great question. For me, manufacturing itself is actually pretty stable. We've worked with Panda for years, and they're fantastic. But everything around manufacturing, like you said, that's where it gets kind of interesting and tricky. You have shipping, tariffs, regional logistics, changing costs. It's like navigating a storm, and so as a publisher, I'm not just designing games, I'm also kind of managing, so many things: freight, regional fulfillment hubs, VAT and customs,
paperwork, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it is all that. It's like safety documentation. And if you're going into Europe now, particular countries, you've got to provide documentation to say what happens when the people want to get rid of a product if it's got electronic components on it and stuff like that. So it's no longer a, hey, I wonder what a game about racing geese sounds like. It's more of a case of, what agencies can I use in order to get myself kind of past the paperwork stuff, make sure everything's kind of filled in, my health and safety, my compliance documentation. You're right, registering for VAT. Where's my stuff going to be? Am I covering the tariffs? Am I covering kind of any additional costs that are kind of brought in by changes that need to be made as well?
Yeah. The good news is I, with all of that, I found a partner that kind of handles all that. Recently transitioned to a company called QML, Quartermaster Logistics, and they're doing a lot of stuff for me. Customer support, shipping and logistics, fulfillment. So I don't have to juggle all of those moving parts. I have to be informed about what's going on and then make decisions and all of that. But it's nice to have that contracted out to a very responsive, reliable partner.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of, I work with businesses in e-commerce, and it used to be the case where it's like, compliance documents, that's somebody else's business. That's nothing to me. I don't deal in VAT. I don't deal in this. But nowadays, what you've got to do is you got to provide the kind of the full package. You've got to know, either how it's done, or you've got to know people who can help your kind of clients do it. It's no longer, you can't, because they're so integral with each other, is that now you can't just have, oh, well, all your shipments are landing in Germany. Cool. Why aren't you registered for VAT?
Right.
Because your stuff's going to get stored there. And what we need, what was happening now with agencies, and I see this in myself as well, is that when I'm planning out a journey for somebody, I need to either be able to provide that service directly, or I need to have constant contact with somebody who can provide that service and they can kind of jump on it straight away. So when somebody says I need somebody to provide freight pallet services from place to place, I can say, well, you need to use kind of these kind of people. So I don't think the case of, well, we don't do this, I don't think that's kind of good enough anymore. I think, if somebody like Quartermaster Logistics was saying, well, we'll do the VAT, we'll do the customer services, we'll do this, and you're kind of like, well, it costs a little more for them to do it for you. But you got that peace of mind that you're not going to end up with stock that's going to be stuck in a port for 3 months,
right.
Getting kind of,
And you also have to decide what business you want to be in. I remember when Jamie Stegmaier was first taking a go, but this is back in viticulture days. He thought, you know what, I can handle my own shipping and logistics. I'll package up all my games in my own basement, and save all kinds of money. Yeah. And he realized soon, okay, this is way too much work. This isn't the business I want to be in. So you outsource the pieces of the business that other people can manage for you, and that frees up your time to do what you're really good at. But it's a full ecosystem, and even QML, they have partners worldwide. Like they work with GamesQuest in the UK, and then GamesQuest works with a partner in the Netherlands to handle the EU portion of it. So it's all interconnected.
Mm-hmm. With the way that kind of manufacturing is going in general, and prices are kind of rising, whether it's with whatever's happening in the world or just in general, prices are rising because costs are going up. I'm seeing kind of more games that are less complicated in terms of components. The production value's there, but they're generally got more kind of card stock, as opposed to, I'm seeing kind of less games with here's 300 miniatures in them. And it's more of a case of how do we represent, if we want to represent 300 miniatures, how do we represent that in a cost-effective means? And looking at, and looking at the likes of like CMON recently, and a lot of the other kind of bigger kind of mini companies just really, really struggling to almost being like their internal kind of Ponzi scheme, that the wheels have kind of fallen off the bus. I see games becoming more inventive in terms of how they use simpler to manufacture components kind of going forward. I don't know if you've seen that kind of like yourself. I mean, Magical Athlete, for instance, is like little wooden meeples with screen printed wooden meeples with like a set of cards and a board. And it's an amazing experience. But I don't know if you're seeing that within the scene, people trying to make their games not necessarily less complicated, but using components that aren't going to require a bigger kind of manufacturing overhead.
I think that's part of it, because with manufacturing costs going up, you still have to apply, the industry multiplier to whatever your manufacturing cost is to get your MSRP. So if the prices of individual components are going up, you're going to probably think at some point, well, I need to have less components in my game. But that's only one small part of it. There's still going to be people out there that want to build these big sprawling games with lots of pieces, lots of components. I don't think, and people love to back those kinds of games as well. Yeah. But it does enter into people's minds, and the number of components in your game does obviously affect the price, as well as the quality. With Flockers, there's not that many components, but the level of quality of the 4 flock tokens are they're pretty substantial. So that affects the price as well. So I would say it's the quality, the materials, and the number of pieces all factor into the ultimate cost.
How, in terms of then you going between enjoying games and designing games, are you still trying to maintain a balance between getting out there and kind of playing games that are out there to kind of keep yourself kind of in the industry and refreshed with what's in there? Because as I say, I mentioned Magical Athlete, but I think I've said to people, one of the games that a lot of people are going to be playing is a roll and move game with like multiple powers on. The folk would just say, no, it's not. Shut up, go away. But it's kind of interesting that, in terms of yourself, are you still managing to get out there, and do you go to game groups on a regular basis? Are you going to conventions and stuff like that to kind of keep your finger on the pulse to see kind of what the general trends are? I've mentioned dual games, which still seems to be like a very, very big thing. What are you doing yourself to kind of keep yourself there? Or alternatively, do you kind of say, well, I want to work on my own ideas, so I don't want to get cross-pollination from anyone else?
Well, I can answer that last question right off the bat. You always want to immerse yourself in games because that cross-pollination is critical. It keeps you kind of in the loop on all the new kinds of mechanics that are out there, or mechanics assembled together with other mechanics in unique ways. Yeah, you definitely never want to isolate yourself. You want to immerse yourself because a lot of times that's where ideas start to germinate. You can't just design in a vacuum. In fact, a lot of new indie publishers that are creating a game that haven't played a lot of Euros, their designs typically are just not as nuanced. So I always encourage indie publishers, you need to get out there and play as many games as you can, and just and let it kind of permeate your being, because then that's when you can maybe deviate and create something a little different, a little unique, or something that builds upon some of other people's ideas, which is totally fine. As far as getting out there and staying abreast of all the latest games, I used to be more like that. I used to have the mindset, well, I'm in the industry, I need to stay up with all the games that are coming out. And it was very hard, because there's always a new Kickstarter or a new game launching on GameFound, and so there was this sense of FOMO. There was this sense of falling behind and not knowing what the latest games were. And I got a little fatigued trying to keep up. And at some point, I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and said, I need to make sure I'm still having fun. And then I started playing the classics, started going back to the classic games that I used to play. And then not caring as much, and then allowing some of my friends around me to say, hey, Mark, have you played this game? And no, and let's do it. And then I would go and I'd play and learn a lot of new games through what my friends were playing. But it wasn't like I was the one trying to keep up, because that can take away some of the joy, I think, if you are just chasing after every new game. And because then, the games that you love, you end up only playing them a few times. And some games have replay value and you want to really play them a lot.
Yeah. The friends angle's interesting because, I can take along countless different games that are on my shelves that I know that that somebody sent me. Some wonderful people have sent me some games that are just like, well, we don't want you to review this. We don't want you to provide any critique on it. If you play it and then write something about it, that's fantastic. But I think it's too easy to get into that thing where I've got a big choice of games, and then I'm ending up playing games for the sake of playing games. And so now I'm a little bit more kind of like, well, like yourself, it's like, what have you been playing? Because my friends who are gamers who are playing board games are playing board games not for any ulterior motive to do like design their own game or critique their work or something like that. They're playing games because the reason that we got into this in the first place, which is we both like board games, and that can be so refreshing to get somebody saying, no, we gotta play kind of like Moon Colony Bloodbath because you're gonna hate it, and I'm gonna laugh at you kind of hating this game so much because I know it's gonna wind you up the wrong way, but I still kind of want you to kind of play it. I mean, with that in mind, is there any games that you played recently that you've kind of went, oh, this is lovely, I like this?
I mean, I'm trying to think the last game that I played that I really got into and ended up buying all the expansions I could find. That was the game Obsession. It's been out for a while.
I was looking at it. It's on your top shelf page.
I mean, I played it and I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. I love tableau building. And I ended up just spending way too much money trying to get all of the all of the expansions. And now I have them. And my wife loved it too. I mean, if you have someone within your own household that loves a game and you can basically whip it out and play it at any given notice, I mean, that's wonderful. You know, you don't have to call up all your friends and coordinate a Saturday. You can just say, let's play, which is great. So yeah, 2-player games are wonderful because my wife loves playing games.
Do you play Viticulture as much then?
It's been a while since I played that one. Or the Tuscany expansion, but yeah, it's a good game.
Yeah, that's just one of the ones I see on your shelf, and also I remember the first time that you spoke. You talk about meeting. Oh, he's like, I have no idea what games are on my shelf.
Yeah, I played all of them.
How the hell did that get there? I don't even like that Stegmeyer, man. Where's all these? I saw Feast of Odin. This is why I don't have a wall behind me full of games myself, because I feel, you be kind of like you kind of end up getting kind of like judged or feel like you're getting
exactly.
judged.
I mean, you're only seeing one section of my game wall. I should rotate.
I don't want to. I mean, it's gonna be like that scene in The Matrix where it's like we need guns. It's just like shelf upon shelf upon shelf upon shelf, kind of flying out and going, what do we need? We need all of the games, and they've kind of got all of the games.
I mean, just looking at my shelfie here, there are certain games that kind of call out to me that I would play at any given moment. I mean, I'll do that for you if you're interested.
Yeah, no, listen, I want to see your top. I want your top 3 that, like, if we were in close proximity to each other, you would say, right, I want to play this.
Okay.
I'll give you
together. I can't, top 3 is so hard, but I can give you my top 10 or top 15 or, okay. Let's see. I'm looking at my
3
shelf.
off the bat. Pressure's on, Swanson. 3 off the bat. You got 3 games in front of you. You're saying we're going to be playing some games. What game you want us to play together? Okay.
Let's see. Goa. GOA is a fantastic game. Caverna. Got to get my worker placement fix in. Uwe Rosenberg. Caverna.
Yeah.
Maybe Feast of Odin too, but Caverna I love. Terra Mystica is a classic.
Oh, okay.
A game called Village. Fun worker placement game I love. Russian Railroads. It's been renamed, but that's a classic. I love that one. Dominant Species. That's a.
Oh, really?
That's a.
Oh, no, there's a. Okay.
GMT games. Yeah, that's one of GMT games that I love. What else we got here? Oh, how about The Adventures of the Journeys? The Voyage.
Here we go.
The Voyages of Marco Polo is a good one.
We've set him off. He's away. Look at, he's gone. He's away. He's now. I'm just gonna list all the games.
No. I'm giving you my top ones.
That's nice. I like that.
There's tons of them that I'm missing here. Puerto Rico is a classic. I always, whenever someone that's relatively new to the hobby comes to the table, I'm like, well, we gotta at least play this once. Because that was, I think it was on number 1 on Board Game Geek for 5 years in a row for a reason.
Oh, it was just ones like that. What about yourself? Have you got anything else in the kind of the pipeline?
Oh gosh. Probably too many. Let's see. There's actually several I'm pretty excited about. Fur, named after the Douglas fir. It's a worker placement game set in the 1800s.
I've seen you talk about that, which is like big green trees.
Yeah, set in the 1800s. It's about the timber industry. So, you're dealing with logging camps and river drives and, some of the earlier industrial systems that take advantage of steam technology. I got one called, and that's kind of almost a tribute to Caverna. I had to design a worker placement game. And that's going to be the same artist, Justin Schultz, who illustrated Feudum.
Oh, we love Justin's work. Justin he's such a good artist. It makes me cry.
Another one that's actually going to be released next, crowdfunded next, is a game called Fleck, which is a much lighter game, but still very much in line with how I like to design. It's a gladiator. I call it an intergalactic gladiator deathmatch. It's a trick-taking game, but it has a little bit of a twist. You're not just playing a card, you're kind of committing them to the table. There's this hidden layer where you're building strength over time and deciding when to really reveal your true power, when to hold back, when to push, that sort of thing. So on the surface, it's very approachable, easy to teach and all of that. But over time, you start to realize there's a lot more going on. That's Fleck, and that I'm working with an artist. I always whenever I think of a game, I always try to think of the artist alongside the game. But that's Sean Sonsona, who's this comic artist out of the Philippines. And when I first saw his art, I thought that looks like Mobius. It's very, very, very expressive, very distinct. And it gives the game, this very unique identity. And, you can go to Board Game Geek and type in FLECK and learn about Fleck. And then probably there's one that's the most ambitious project that I've ever worked on. People always ask me, is Feudum the best thing I've ever done? And I tell them, no, actually it's this one, the one that I haven't released yet. It's a trading card game. I know that everybody and their brother is making a trading card game, but man, this thing, I've spent so much time working with the artist on this one. It's quite special. Like I said, it's the most ambitious project I've worked on, and it is a dueling card battle. So
okay.
A classic
I wouldn't
TCG.
put you in that wheelhouse. If I said games that you were gonna make, there wouldn't be a list with a little tick box. What you don't know, dueling.
What you don't know about me is I played a fair amount of Magic: The Gathering. I played a fair amount of. Remember Eric Lang's A Game of Thrones, the card game?
Oh yeah, no, I remember that. Yeah.
So this one is a dueling card game, but instead of just player v player, there's this shared space between you called the wilderness. So you're not just attacking each other, you're kind of navigating a world together. And there's also a grid component to this. You're positioning units on a tactical grid, and you're gathering resources from the environment, and you're kind of competing for terrain advantages. So the tension in the game is not just, can I beat you? It's, can I outmaneuver you within this system that's in front of me? And so, yeah, it's less like just a plain old duel and more like two forces kind of colliding inside this living, breathing world, which was created by Jake Morrison, who's just one of the best artists I've ever worked with. He's not just an artist, he's this world builder, and he's created this, interconnected biomes with
Yeah.
with strange kind of mutated creatures and layered ecosystems. It's just an amazing sandbox that I get to play in.
When's that out then? Or what's the plan with that?
That is the hardest question to answer. When are you launching? When are you launching that? When's that coming out? And I always say, I don't know. I don't know when it's ready.
Just enjoying playing
for a TCG, you can't just have two factions and launch it, right? You have to have backup factions. You have to have the ability to have booster packs and blister packs that give people a sneak peek at completely different biomes. And so you essentially have to create like close to 1,000 cards with unique art for it to really feel like a TCG. And then of course, once people play it and love it, they want more. They want to get booster packs and they want the next faction. So we're building it out. I have a full prototype and it looks gorgeous. I have it right here in my hand. You could see it.
I can see it, but nobody else is like, oh, hello.
So this is the tome right here.
Oh my goodness, that is amazing.
Open it up. Here's the rule book. And then you have the highlands and the lowlands biomes. You have this neoprene mat, which is the wilderness that comes between you. You have this cool starting player token, and then you have these terrain tokens right here. See this?
Yes,
these look
stunning looking.
They look like and they feel like ivory or bone. They're just gorgeous. And then you have this player pouch right here made out of this microfiber, and then you have hit counters inside there. So, and then this tome right here inside, you have a map that shows the area where the highlands and the lowlands do battle. And this is just one small section of a much larger map, which is part of this gigantic world in Four Lords, which, like I said, is essentially about these ancient beings that are timeless. And they basically travel through time, and they I don't want to say interfere. I guess they do interfere. They influence what happens between biomes and try to tip the scales for good or sometimes for evil. It's a very, very...
That looks really cool. I wish I wasn't so ugly so we could do video. I'm going to run through some figures very, very quickly because I'm just going to go through the pledge levels for Flockers because I've learned my lesson that if I ask people like your good self, give us the pledge levels, you're like, oh, come on. But I'm going to run through this, right? So you have got the Flockers Game Found Edition with the playmat, which is $60. And that gets you the main game plus a playmat. Then, if you don't want the playmat, you have got the main Flockers Game Found Edition, which is just $50. If you want to go a little bit more, you've got the Flockers Game Found Edition in both expansions, and that's $110, or both expansions with the playmat is $120. Or you've got the all-in honk with Goose Call and the full soundtrack, $145.
Right, you're gonna want that Goose Collar.
You're gonna want. I mean, if it's a Goose Call, I mean that's worth the price of admission. And this is me looking down and seeing if you can actually buy. You can buy the Flockers Custom Goose Call for $20, which everybody's gonna want regardless. You've got the good thing is about this is you can buy like the add-ons separately. So if you just want to have the Birds of Feather expansion, you can buy that for $35. If you want the Unwelcome Guest expansion, which includes the Canada Goose, it's $25. So there's an entire feast, a menu of various different options it's for all you flockers out there.
It's important to me to kind of create this a la carte so people can kind of cherry pick and get the stuff that they want.
Absolutely. So at time of recording, this is going to be out in the 5th of May, which is a Tuesday. And hopefully I'll get my finger out and you'll be able to listen to this conversation within the first couple of days of the GameFound campaign kind of launching. And we will make sure, of course, that we put all the links in the show notes so that we've got notes to show. There's only a couple of things to do. Thank you very, very much, Mark, for coming back on again. You probably realised halfway through what you were getting yourself into and then stayed because you're polite, basically. But we'll make sure we put all the links in the show notes so everybody can have the links through to the campaign so they can check out Flockers for themselves. You can also go to the Oddbird Games website as well if you're wanting to look at Flockers, but if you're wanting to check out Feudum, if you're wanting to look at anything else that Mark's been involved in, that's a good place to go and a good place to visit. If you'd want to keep an eye on what we're up to, there's two places you can go. You go to we'renotwizards.co.uk, which has got everything. It's like written reviews of board games and a couple of video games now. Also all the episodes of the podcast that is there as well, plus anything else that we feel is applicable to the scene. If you want to check out all of the podcast episodes, just go to we'renotwizards.com and that'll take you through to our Podbean site and you'll be able to see all of the episodes that we have released so far, which is about 560 or something like that. Stupid, silly amounts. There's only a couple of things to do. The first thing is to remember that we're many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Mark?
We are not.
Yay! And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from the rather wonderful, rather fantastic. He's still the Toastmaster. Remember, keep it on 3.5 and you get the best toast in the world. Rather fantastic, rather wonderful.
Should we end with
Mark Swanson?
Should we end with a goose honk?
Yes, you can. Let's do that. We will do that. So it's a goodbye from Mark. Say goodbye, Mark.
Goodbye.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll sixes, make something awful, and stay spicy. But until the next time, goodbye. Do it. Let's hear this honk.
Oh,
Go on.
Well, there's different levels to the honk.
I just say, I think you go out, go all out, full commitment.
All
do
right.
it.
The full territorial goose honk. Here we go.
You've probably blown Audacity. But until the next time, goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.